أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. This year we have been speaking about things that cause depression, anxiety, and reduce our overall happiness. One thing that causes this is something that we spend more time with than anything else. No, I'm not speaking about our husbands or wives, nor our children, nor our careers, jobs or businesses. Rather, I'm speaking about our mobile phones. Now, I want to introduce you all to a new word, phubbing. Phubbing is a word made up of two other words, phone and snubbing, and it means to ignore someone in favor of your phone. How many times have you seen someone distracted by their phone in a social gathering, in a Majales, or even at the dinner table? How many times have you been speaking to someone on a one-on-one level, and in the middle of that conversation, they take out their phone? How many times have you gone into your son or daughter's room to check up on how they're doing, only to find out that they're looking at their phone and they're giving you one-word replies? Now, some of you may still be thinking, there are bigger problems in society. Phones are the last of our issues, and that I should be speaking about something a bit more relevant. The truth is, phubbing is such a big problem that divorce lawyers say that it is the number one cause of divorces. This means that phones are the number one reason as to why a husband and a wife separate. Now, before I move on, I want to take you all back to 30 years ago, to a time where if you did want to call someone, you had to use what was called a rotary phone. These were phones that had numbers in a circle, and you'd have to press the first digit and then spin it, and then press the next digit and then spin it again, and you'd have to repeat this process until you input that person's number. And so calling someone using these phones took a comparatively long time compared to today. Now, back in those days, when the father came home, he no longer had any connection to his work. He would, and most of the time when he did come back from work, he was in a good mood, and his family would enjoy the evening together. Some days he had a tough day at work, however, but when he got home, he would forget about all his problems and they'd enjoy the evening together. They would sit at the family table and enjoy dinner time and speak with one another, and the father would share with them interesting things. Now, fast forward to today. The father comes home from work with his phone in his hand, and when he does cut it off, he sees that he has 10 messages and 4 emails that he has to reply to. And so he starts typing on his phone. The family sit down and eat together, and they start talking with one another. However, the father's once deeply inspiring comments have now all become one-word replies. His body is still at the dinner table, but his mind is still at work. Does this not sound familiar? Of course, this is not just about fathers. It also applies to working mothers. Until phones became popular, however, work was always done somewhere separate from home. When he came home from work, It was easy to win his attention as there was no competition. But now that these devices have made its way into our homes, and the problem is so bad that developed countries like France, Spain, Germany, Italy, Australia, Canada, and many more have created laws prohibiting and stopping employers from contacting their employees after working hours, calling it the right to disconnect. However, laws themselves are not enough to solve the problems, as they haven't solved the problem. And they won't solve the problem until we ourselves recognize that not only do we have a right to disconnect, but a duty to disconnect. Now, back to phubbing. When parents phub, how does this affect their children? Well, studies prove that it leads to problematic internet addiction. Children want to spend time with their parents, but the parents themselves are often too busy on their phone and they tend to ignore their child. And that breaks the bond that they have with one another. And so the child then goes and forms a bond with the internet instead. Doesn't this also sound familiar? Now, Agha Amin has been warning us about this in these Majales for years. And other studies show that parents who do actively use their phone in front of their children later on develop other problems. For example, lower levels of emotional intelligence and higher chances of getting depression and anxiety. So if this is such a big issue, why is nobody talking about it? Well, the truth is, people are talking about it. Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, a company that benefits from every single Android device that is sold, this same Bill Gates has a no phones at the dinner table policy at his own home. And this is not exclusive to Bill Gates. Tech giants, owners of Reddit, Snapchat, Facebook, and many celebrities all have family rules in place as to when they can use their phones. Now, phubbing by parents doesn't only affect the children, rather it affects the parents themselves too. An interesting study was conducted where there were two groups of parents. One group would actively avoid using their phones during family time, and another group would spend quite a lot of time on their phone when they were with their families. The research came back and it said the parents that avoided using their phones enjoyed family time more, the family time meant more to them, and they were overall happier. Whereas the parents who used their phone a lot said that they felt disconnected from their own families and that they reported greater feelings of loneliness. Now, I'm sure mobile phones and how addictive they are is a topic we've all heard about. But studies show many signs of addiction. For example, taking your phone out of your pocket numerous times without really any reason to. Or closing an app and then a few seconds later opening it up again. Or scrolling swapping aimlessly between the same 2 to 3 apps. Or locking your phone and then moments later unlocking it again without having any sort of notification or reason to do so. And if you do find yourself doing any one of these, don't for a second assume that it's by coincidence or an accident. Rather, it is by design. There's a whole science called UX, user experience. And there are jobs called UX engineers. And the very job of these people is to get you as addicted to your phone as possible, to make sure you're spending as much time on your phone as possible. That is one of their main aims. Now, then there's the issue of being able to afford these devices that we're all addicted to. we feel like we have to buy a new phone every year or two. And this can be because of numerous reasons. It could be because of advertisements and recommendations from friends, making us feel like we're perhaps missing out. Or it could be because of sales deals, special offers or trade-in deals, making us feel like we're saving money. Or it could be because of the status symbol of a mobile phone. Have the status symbol associated to owning that latest iPhone or that latest Samsung Galaxy. However, we should really be asking ourselves, why am I getting a new phone? What am I going to get from this new phone that the previous one didn't already give me? And how will it improve my quality of life? After all, these devices are not cheap. Many of us have to purchase them on credit cards, contracts, or in installments. And so we should be asking ourselves a few questions. When we buy these phones regularly for ourselves, do our family members also then have the same expectations for themselves? What kind of financial pressure does that then put on us? Doesn't extra financial pressure result in more stress and anxiety? Doesn't stress and anxiety lead to arguments and disagreements? Do people in the house get upset when they don't get the phone that they want? And aren't there more important things that this money could be used towards? For example, organic and fresh and healthy food and fruits for our families. Activities for our families, holidays and ziyarah trips. Keeping our homes warmer. Saving money for our families' futures. Now, I'm not here to give any financial advice. All I'm saying is that we should think twice before we waste our time, money, and lives. And so, when we really do need a new phone, what do we do with it? It's not something cheap that we simply throw away. So usually, we tend to give them to our son or daughter, thinking that it will make them happy. And it may make them happy, but have we also considered that it may also do them more harm than good? Now, when researching, I was surprised to find that some of the most famous celebrities don't even have smartphones. Each had their own reason as to why, but I want to share with you one of the common reasons. Christopher Nolan, one of the most famous directors who has won countless awards, has said, "It's true that I don't have a smartphone. I don't really want to have access to the internet every time I'm bored." Now, why did he say this? Well, let's ask Steven Spielberg, the most successful director of all time. He said, "It interrupts our ability to have a thought because we're too busy during the walk from the cafe back to the office on the phone." Now, some of you may be saying, "Okay, Amir Mohammad, why are you talking about film directors?" Well, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam has said, "Fikratu sa'atan khayrun min ibadati alf sinah." Thinking for an hour is greater than 1,000 years of worship. Why has the Imam alayhi salam said this? Because we live our lives on autopilot. Our today and our tomorrow is the same as our yesterday and our yesteryear. We don't spend time thinking about yesterday and how to change ourselves and how to have a better tomorrow. Why? Because we no longer have any time to reflect. These phones have consumed and absorbed all that time that we used to have to reflect. We even take them with us to the toilets. And just because they're so portable and we can take them everywhere and anywhere doesn't mean that we should. We look at celebrities and we often mock them and we say that they're terrible role models. And quite frankly, they are. However, when it comes to phone usage, there are quite a few lessons we can learn from them. For example, many of them put their phones in their drawers or keep them out of sight and only check up on it a few times a day. They seem to understand that these devices prevent thinking and reflecting. And reflection is what allowed Hur to separate himself from the people of hell and to join the people of paradise. I want you all to think about that for a moment. If Hur didn't have time to reflect, then today we would be sending la'an and curses upon him, just as we do upon Yazid and his army. However, when Hur found out that Yazid intended to kill Imam Hussein alayhi salam, kill the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Fatima al-Zahra, that shook him deeply, that shook him to his core. And so he asked himself one simple question: how am I going to face Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam on the day of judgment when I played a part in killing his grandson Hussein? And so he escaped from the army of Yazid and he started going towards Hussein, but he did not know how to face his Imam. After all, it was his fault that his caravan had stopped in the first place. And so he put his head down regretfully and shamefully, and he was thinking to himself, will my tawbah be accepted after I struck fear in the hearts of the awliya of Allah? He continues until he reaches the Imam alayhi salam, and he says, هل لي من توبة? Will you forgive me? Imam Hussein alayhi salam says, ارفع رأسك, lift your head. Your mother made no mistake when she named you Hur, a free man. أنت الحر كما سمتك أمك وأنت الحر في الدنيا والآخرة. You are a free man in this world and the hereafter. And that is the essence of Karbala. That is the essence of Ashura, the ark of salvation. The door of the Ahl Bayt alayhi salam is always open to all of us. It is simply upon us to want to walk in their footsteps. According to some narrations, Hur sent his own son to the battlefield before he himself went and fought. He said, let me send my most beloved to fight in the way of Hussein and to be sacrificed in the way of Hussein before I sacrifice myself in his path. Why did he do this? Why did he send his son first? Because he knew that very soon Hussein would have to witness his own son being killed in Karbala. فقطعوا بسيوفهم إربا إربا وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون.